Disruptor's not going to do that. Disruptor's like I'm not a big fan of the Disruptor, actually. I mean, I feel like it's just going to be for catching the Abaddon inside the Static Storm so that you don't have that counter initiation potential. It might just mean that UK needs to adjust how he's going to position
10
himself in a lot
seconds
of these
remaining.
engagements. Like, most of the time, you want to be sort of near the front so that you can
5
immediately
seconds
respond
remaining.
to whoever's your front line and getting gone on. But now, if you're standing near someone, you have the potential to just get caught within that silence and you can't really do anything.
I'm kind of surprised they picked the Disruptor when the Abaddon's already showing, because this is, unless they flex the Undying somehow, this is looking like a Disruptor 4, and you have the Aphotic Shield just to get rid of the Thunderstrike in the lane.
I'm not a fan of the Spectre either. I mean, it's okay. It's good against the Rubik, and it's good to potentially get the Abaddon to want to pop the borrowed time early. That's good, and it gives them a form of initiation. But against the Doom, not so much, right? Like, eventually you're going to be able to go into the Aghanim Scepter if you were wanting to on the Doom, which is going to be really nice. Doom just in general is going to be very effective against the Spectre. And we saw about the laning stage, Undying Spectre. It's not the strongest. Against a Rubik Doom, it's all right. But I don't know. I'm not feeling uber confident about this one for Yangon so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
I mean, they need damage as well. Like, where's the damage coming from them in the super early game? Like, this game is so heavily on young PH's shoulders, it's not even funny.
Yeah, it feels like it can quite often be on his shoulders in a lot of games we see from Yangon, but he can definitely shine at a high level. He had a very, very solid Ember performance in game one, and we'll see what hero he gets. A Viper picked up for Neon. This is either the one or the... Oh, I mean, you could put
I think this is a
Doombeard.
mid Viper. I think this is a mid Viper,
Okay.
to be honest. It's something that Amang Daya does like to play a lot. Honestly, it could go in any of the lanes, right? Good against the Tide, good against the Spectre.
I want them to put Doom in and go Viper off. Like, I think you just body the Undying and Spectre. A ranged, non-strength hero completely gets rid of the Undying factor. And we saw yesterday or the day before that the Undying one game he got bodied in lane, and that's really the reason you pick this hero. Like, a lot of his toolkit is from securing your laning stage and giving free farm to your carry. And now if you put a Viper in that lane, Undying, the reason for you to pick him is kind of just nullified.
I'm honestly just trying to think of what mid hero they could possibly go here for Yangon that's going to give them any chance. Wind Ranger, of course, it's good against the Viper, but it's not good against basically any of their other heroes. It needs to be something that's able to dish out a good amount of right-click damage. It needs to be something that can get in and be like that beefy frontliner, basically, or start the engagements. You don't want to save that for Haunt the entire time.
This is like an impossible pick. This actually seems like an impossible pick. I think you need a hero to make plays, someone that can have damage, like you were saying, that they're lacking. He also needs to potentially lane into a Viper, which is not goddamn easy to do at all. My lord, I mean, Yangon, you're put in quite the position right now on how you can kind of fill a lot of the voids, and you don't have a lot of time left either.
Is it like a mid LC? I'm clutching at straws here. I'm just trying to think of some things that have like some sort of way to ignore the Viper. They're gonna go a Storm Spirit. Okay, well it's not awful, but again, I feel like you just need to be finding the Rubik. That is the goal for this Storm Spirit every single engagement. So it's hard for Yangon, but it's also a little bit hard for UK. There's a lot that he needs to consider. He needs to be near his front line that Tidehunter wants to go on. He needs to be staying away from the Disruptor so that he's not getting static stormed. He needs to make sure that he's in position to also get an Aphotic Shield off onto the Rubik as well so that he's not getting bursted down. So there's a lot of stuff that this Abaddon needs to tick off. So if Neon are able to take this one, I think it's going to be on the back of him.
Do we feel like there's any flex potential with the heroes they have at the moment on Neon to go into a position 1, or are we still looking for Palos' hero?
I think we're still looking for Palace's hero here, or could be Palace Viper. You never know. It's something that they have played a little bit. I'm still feeling pretty confident that this Viper is going to be able to do a decent job of bullying the Storm Spirit. Gonna go with the Juggernaut. Just the safe bet. And yeah, Mamang Dire Viper. Kind of what we were expecting, right? It's good against two of the heroes. It's pretty good in the laning stage against the Storm Spirit. Storm Spirit doesn't output that much physical damage super early on, which is Viper's main weak point, considering he's slow and has relatively low HP. So I feel like this is going to be a pretty fun game for Mamang Dire. Palos, I mean, Juggernaut plus Abaddon into a Tidehunter. There's not a huge amount of kill potential, but you're not really caring that much against the Disruptor either, right? Like you can Aphotic Shield or just spin to remove it if he looks to put more than 1 point into it. The Kinetic Field is going to be useless. The actually is so it is a 4 Undying, so I feel a little better about it, but still it's not.
Because I don't. I'm like, hang on, why are they playing a 4 Undying?
I mean, because the Disruptor's terrible into the lane, basically. And at least the Undying is just bad into the lane, not terrible.
Okay. Don't you just give a like that's now a pretty easy lane for Enryu.
It is. It is, and that's the other thing that I'm mainly concerned about. I feel like kind of Yangon have outdrafted themselves here with a few of these picks. Like, yes, it's important to deal with the Abaddon, but you don't want all of your lanes to be crushed because you're trying to deal with the enemy's position 5, right? You actually need something that's going to respond to, a core in the game as opposed to just to support. So this is going to be a rough one for Yangon. I'm feeling very confident about Neon's chances here.
Do you feel like there is any window here where Yangon can have like the strongest stage in this game? Like, is it off the back of one hero in particular? Maybe just team fights, pickoffs? What do we look for Yangon to still be able to succeed?
I think if you're somehow able to get a couple of kills in the super early game on Zorain with his Disruptor, like Rubik Doom isn't that high damage, and you can get burst through if you're out of position. So maybe like level 3 on them, 2 points into the Thunder Strike, 1 point in the Kinetic Field or the Glimpse, will be able to net them a kill down on that bottom side. It really does feel like the Spectre needs to have an amazing early game so that not all of the emphasis is on young PH to be able to deal with this Rubik.
Well, we've seen very, very early placement of the Sentry mid. Previously, Neon. Oh, that's no good. Okay. Well.
Oh. Come on, Myanmar. You gotta... they're having issues. I can't talk, right? Because I was in a little bit of a similar one. And yeah, Palos, good boy, gets the old +1 there.
Yeah, we saw previously that Neon had popped that ward up on the higher ground by the small camp. Do you feel like last game it was a lot more emphasis to really protect the small camp just so they could keep it up and not enable Yangon just to sneak over and D-ward?
I feel like it was just a misplay on the first one that Hao was a little slow with his movement, so he's a core player, he doesn't understand the important stuff like blocking camps or things like that. He's just like me see creep, me hit creep. So yeah, just a couple of seconds here or there is all that it takes for the enemy just to have, again, an advantageous position coming out of that mid lane.
Okay, so there's a win probability currently for Yangon. I feel like...
All right, it's favoring him.
I mean, I don't know. Everything you've just said, I feel like is completely nullified now from Daddy Gaben, who's saying that Yangon's going to take it. So
he loves Spectre too much.
That is true. That is true.
It's just that little bit of a bias factor. Any terrible sets this game?
I'm just taking a look now. I'm like, hang on, we had some goddamn awful sets yesterday. Is there any bad ones? I mean, the Viper. Oof,
I mean, it's a little. I mean, the glance value, the Scorpion, the Nyx, whatever you want to call it, is a little off, but
the hybrid.
It's okay. You just call that a Scorpion, right?
Yeah, Scorpion, bug, hybrid, something looking thing. Who's he saying farewell to?
You gotta love it.
Oh, they love the boys. Didn't you say what? UK said he was taking a step back, and Mamang Dai's like, okay, yeah, guys, I'm taking a step back too. I'm gonna keep playing with him.
He's like, you can't get rid of me that easily.
Well, they're having a lot of success so far. Honestly, Neon, I've been very impressed with how they've been playing. I mean, it has been against what was it, Army Geniuses yesterday and Yangon now, so arguably not the strongest teams in the Pro Series, but at least maybe this, maybe they're liking that, just getting some easier opponents, if you want to call that, to build the confidence and the chemistry.
A win's a win, you know? Like, I'm sure going into their series against Army Geniuses, Polaris were putting that one down in the books as a 2-0 for themselves, and then they got 0-2. So there's confidence, and then there's cockiness a little bit here. So anyone can beat anyone in the Southeast Asian region. That's why it is always so entertaining to watch.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, we saw a mega pie this series versus Nigma C. I mean, who else? There was some crazy other victories as well.
I mean, after a dominant game one of Boom Execration, Execration came back and beat them pretty handily in game number 2, handing Boom only their second loss of the entire group stages. Motivate's the only undefeated team now, right?
Yeah, the only undefeated team. We will not be seeing them today. Not for a couple more days on Motivate, but... Okay, so they are actually going to put the Undying down bottom. Is this Neon just trying to presume that the Disruptor was going bot and they guessed incorrectly?
Well, yeah, they've got the 3 heroes down here, so I think they're just wanting to scout out what the lanes are like, and yeah, then just switching it up there, because I was like, man, if this Abaddon stays here, this has suddenly become a very good lane for Yangon, but no, they switched it up, but this is exactly what Neon were hoping for.
Do you want Yangon to follow suit, or do you believe Skill A should stay down bot just to really disable Enryu's lane?
I feel like Skill A and Zoran can swap. I think that's definitely a possibility. I think Spectre can stay, but he missed the spot. There's a spot just above that little crystal to the right of the small camp that you can place, and it hits every single part of it. So, well, Skill A, he's not a noted D-Water. You know? He's more about the aggressive movements.
That's gonna be a bit unfortunate now. Undying will have to bring out another sentry. He would have loved to have an early stick, maybe some extra stats as well, or sustain just to keep himself continuously spamming out those abilities. But top lane, we haven't seen a Jug for quite some time. It's always a hero that, comes back here and there, but is never really the strongest carry for, quite some time. How do you feel about it this game?
The one time we saw it was, I think we saw one yesterday, right? We saw it, Omega picked it up against the Darkseer, and the big thing that I remember about it was just him Omni-slashing on top of a wall of replica, so all of the Omni-slashes got connected up by the illusions. So I feel like it's just a jack of all trades, master of none. It's alright against the Tidehunter, it's alright against the Mars, but when it gets to later on, it feels like you are still quite dependent on some of these big teamfight ultimates, and it's not even a teamfight ultimate that provides something like a Spectre does, for example, in the form of mobility, right? Being able to be at all parts of the map and rejoin at any time.
Yeah, we saw just previously that the Blade Fury is a pretty good way to do a lot of damage to the Tidehunter. It's a bit unfortunate that you don't have the greatest support to really enable the Blade Fury. I don't think UK gets this kill. Does have a movement speed advantage. It's a miscall enough. Oh no. But he's forced out cell views there. So I guess forcing out a lot of resources early. And a lane we haven't paid too much attention to is the mid matchup for Memang Dyer, who's completely zoned out Storm Spirit at the moment.
As expected. Yeah. This is always what you expect to see on a Viper, unless it's against someone that's got heavy right-click damage that's able to bully him, or someone with some kind of purge where you're not really caring all that much about the poison attacks that are starting to stack up onto you. And with every odd level that you get, you just have this mini power spike essentially when the poison attack is just that much more effective. Even just bullying him completely out of the lane at the 4 or so minute mark.
Do you feel like this then could give an opportunity? Hold that thought. Young PH actually does have a level up in the Vortex, so this is our first blood, and my oh my, Young PH is probably grinning left, right, and center now with the fact that he picks up first blood and is against a Viper.
Yeah, he'll be very happy about that, but Memang Dyer just goes and tries to take away some of his creep camps. The plus side is that at least they've got someone farming. I mean, my initial thought was I kind of wanted Zorain to be the one there in the mid lane instead on the Disruptor, just because I feel like it's more important for him to get those early levels of farm. If he's able to get into the Aghanim Scepter, for example, it's going to nullify the effect of you know, popping a BKB, for example, to try and get away from the static storm. But you know, if he wasn't there, they wouldn't have got the kill onto.
Oh, is he gonna go for it? Oh, that he
Why
is. Remaining die, just a freebie. Skill a little bit too late to offer some assistance. Zorain as well, even TPing forward. But he's got the level 6 now picked up. We'll see if he get an extra kill before he transitions to the grave, and that he will. So a double for Neon's position too.
They're happy for that. Sure, like Zorain is looking like, you're going to deny onto this? Yes, you will.
Alright, well, we've seen a lot of emphasis on the supports to make these rotations mid, and as it just made the free lane, so the side lanes completely free for Neon. Enryu, top of the last hits, and, you know, simultaneous.
The last hits, you're mentioning the last hits, sorry to interrupt, but it's the denies that I'm really looking at. Just have a look back at the last hits denies. Like, there's barely any on Yangon's side, and it's just the bullying from Neon right now that's able to just completely nullify not only the net worth, but also the experience.
Middle tower is under
And it's a big issue with that, the fact that this Undying hasn't dissuaded the Doom from getting so much out of the lane. Like, yes, Spectre's got 24 last hits, but Doom is not the greatest laner at all. And especially when you're up against a big counter as a 5 like the Undying. Like, he should not have, you know, this high of net worth. But it's the fact that your mid lane, you're up against a horrific matchup. And Young PH doesn't want to be here, so it's kind of forcing the supports to come in the area and maybe soak up some experience. And it just means these side lanes are going disastrous.
Yeah, absolutely. Feels to me like, yeah, I think the Tidehunter is much more capable of being solo. You know, there's not a huge amount of kill threat when you're going up against a Juggernaut and an Abaddon, when you compare that to what an Undying is going to be able to do to stop a Doom from farming, for example, right? Like, he's been able to drop this Tombstone. That's pretty nice, actually, to nearly take a few of these stacks. It's actually going to the Storm Spirit instead. Was that the net that actually locked him in place for a little bit there?
Oof, so close. Henry doesn't have actually a skill point in the ultimate, but it's like skill A. Oh, he'll make him work for it. No chance he's gonna duke this one out.
He's just saying, how, please? Help me.
That's, oh, again, we just have to say some pleases, but unfortunately just giving away another kill here as Neon 1,000 net worth lead, and this is really going to continue to ramp up, especially with how farm the Doom is.
Yep, I think he's got his Midas coming out to him now, actually.
My god.
Does he? I feel like he's a little bit too rich if that's the case.
I think he does. He's 4,200 net worth. Yeah, he does. My... Henry's loving life. Let's see how late of a Doom level he goes.
Probably... I'd say level 9, maybe. Just wanting to get maximum devour for now. He's already got the pick pole to be able to take advantage of that Scorched Earth damage. See you later, Lun.
Beautifully done. Mangdai is even going into the ASOS this game. I really like the build. I mean, a great way to lock down the Storm Spirit. You're going to have some issues with initiation until Doom gets Blink and Rubik as well, but now you can really just group up and take objectives and really minimize how aggressive the Storm can play early. He does pick up the regen. Maybe this will give him an opportunity to posture aggressively, but he recognizes that he doesn't have as much time to stick around.
No, he'll at least be able to, yeah, perhaps flash farm some of these camps here while he's still got the regen. Not really worrying all that much about his mana pool for the sake of it. Yeah, use the second half of it just to be still at full HP. He's even got the Keen Optic as well. Very fantastic for a Storm in the super early stages of the game.
Once again, though, heading back to top, Lun, he just TP'd in the vicinity. And it looks like same place as before is going to end up dying.
It's the exact same thing happening as well.
I mean...
Hyper Strike into Spear, into Nether Toxin, into Death. And it's a long walk back for this Tidehunter.
And you were saying that he is pretty much the only person that could lane solo. That was a while ago now. Like, we've got a completely different story once the ultimates are picked up. And the Tide was having the best lane out of them all. And potentially a hero who could... make a lot of space with just keeping these towers alive and the ultimate potential to maybe win a team fight. But now, when you just see that, you've got the Viper to completely counter him, and all you really need now from Dire is just some lockdown to keep him in the break.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're going into the Atos first. Wouldn't surprise me to see something like a Boots of Travel after that for the Viper, just to solve some of his movement issues that he's got. You know, damage, of course, is still quite important, but I feel like it's just having that constant map threat around the map. You know, you've already got a Doom that's going to be moving around very quickly as well. They're getting another kill.
Kills galore.
Okay.
Okay, Disruptor falling up top, and young PH simultaneously can get his own kill meanwhile mid. So the Storm is 30 net worth. So considering that he really couldn't lane mid, the fact that he's actually higher net worth than his counterpart is going to give them some confidence. Skilly just bring all the creeps over to How.
Why not? I mean, this is the sort of plays that you need to make happen and kind of be a little bit desperate here. Is that a blade mail that I see on How as well? Just realizing that they're reaching the point where Neon are just going to start consistently running at them as soon as they've got the Atos on the Viper. You've got the Doom up online. Juggernaut's probably still going to farm a little bit unless it's the perfect scenario, but it's a little bit of a rough spot for them to be in right now.
And Ryu thinks twice about moving up the high ground. They even commit for the Horn. And Ryu doesn't want to use that ultimate just yet, and he needs some extra assistance to get full utilization out of the Doom. No Midas, no use of the Devourer as well, so bit of a costly death, but Mamain dies looking to swing down bottom. TP's instantly starting to escape the area. Unfortunately for the rest of Yangon, have stuck around for a little bit too long, in particular the supports. So Zorain eyeing a little bit of a nook. I mean, he'll sacrifice his life so everyone else can make it away.
They don't hate this though on Neon. You know, they're sure the supports get away, but you've got this creep wave at the bottom that everyone's TP'd away from with the siege creep. So that's an easy tower that Neon are going to be able to secure for themselves. Top side, you really just need to be a little bit mindful of the Juggernaut. But again, you've got this Doom. You've got the Juggernaut. Yeah, like, poor guy.
And you just... They recognized, I mean, the TPs was used previously, so we can chase him down from afar. I mean, maybe it's going to be a +1 like Zorain, but there's no extra damage after that.
Yeah, he's also got the healing ward, so he doesn't really care about the Static Storm being dropped. I thought maybe Paulus was getting a little bit greedy there, not having the Blade Fury to be able to just secure the kill a little earlier, but in the end, it's going to mean that he's still got a lot of those cooldowns at his disposal. It's the Radiant Tower secured on the bottom side of the map. And yeah, things going from good to better for Neon. Even without that Devour and the Midas usage, look at the farm there on Enryu. Well ahead of anyone else.
This is just the prime game for a Doom. Except the Undying, but when you're at a stage like this, you're absolutely loving life. Palos, just a Blade Fury TP out. They have absolutely no answer to that this game, so we're going to see Juggernaut continuing to farm incredibly aggressively across the map.
I was getting a little bit low there. He's looking like going into the SNY. Don't hate it. I mean, you need SNY and Manta. Could be either one, but you need a little bit of status resistance for sure. You also want to just be able to have that extra movement speed when you've got the potential of being kited around by a Viper.
And it just seems like there's big issues right now with how they can make plays across the map. You've got Storm trying to work on a Kaya. Maybe this will give him some involvement. Who does Storm even look to pair with, though, on Yangon?
That's a damn good question. Like I said, this needs to be a game where young PH just pops off entirely. The fact that he was able to recover out of a disastrous laning stage, you know, he got a couple of solo kills for himself, which led him to be nearly level 11 already. Very nicely done. And using the regen rune, getting a little bit lucky as, you know, oftentimes the mid lane is decided somewhat by luck. He was able to secure a few camps for himself. So I think he still needs to kind of play a lone hand here. And it's going to be the same as last game. He needs to take care of Hustler on his Rubik.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
And we do see Hustlers working on an early Blink Dagger here. Zenryu's wanting the BKB as his next item.
Net worth 16 minutes last game, so we'll see what his timing's like this time around.
They're still posturing pretty aggressively up top. Even Zorain was thinking about swinging on over just in case a fight broke out. Skilly, I mean, he does have the maxed out Tombstone at the moment, so the Undying is very strong at this stage in the game, but you need to take a fight around a choke point where you can really get full utilization out of the Tombstone. Now, this is a bit peculiar of a position to be in.
No, I think he's just trying to take as much attention away from the rest of the team as possible. right? Like, the reason that he's playing around there with the Storm Spirit is that if a squishy target like the Rubik gets out of position, you can kill him. They're not really all that worried about the Storm Spirit dying. Like, maybe now that they realize that Doom's going to be back available, Young PH is going to be playing a little bit more carefully after he's shoved in that wave. Who's actually up top there that he's going to lane into? Yeah, he zips away just in time. But the Undying, he was like, I want to try and drag as many people up towards this top-sided map as I can. In the meantime, Spectre's recovered from, I believe, 5th or 6th on net worth up to 3rd and is continuing to grow with that Blade Mail. It's very important that Spectre isn't having her Ancients invaded, especially if you've gone for this item build.
Yeah, we haven't seen... I think, honestly, that's the first smoke from Neon to try and just clip Young PH as he was retreating, but no aggressive wards from Neon to occupy the triangle. So, yeah, like you're saying, Hao has actually done a very good job to keep up in farm. I mean, this max dispersion with the Blade Mail build and, you know, invasion to the triangle. So,
yeah.
How do you feel like...
It's not even just him, right? Like, it's... for mine, it's the Undying that's doing that, you know? Like,
sure.
People will say, oh, he's feeding, blah, 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 but... He's done his job. He's taken all of the attention away because you can't just let an Undying walk around in your own jungle. You know, it's going to scout out a lot of these smokes that might happen.
Looks like Neon finally starting to make a move towards an objective. They got level 2 Doom, Catapult, Timing. Jog's still not showing up at the moment. He is underneath an observer ward, so they're well aware that he will not be involved for a team fight if it does break out. And they're going to look to utilize this information as Lon's going to TP in. Right, off for the Ravage in the tree line to start the fight, then you can drop the Static Storm. Gonna try and find the angle. There's the Ravage, instantly UK. We'll try and get rid of the borrowed time. It will give Enryu an opportunity for the BKB. He's gonna look to turn with the 2, but there's no follow-up afterwards. Still with the backline. He's able to chase him down, but a telekinesis to give the space. Another target through the Undying. As we main Dire starting to stack up the poison. There's a lot of ultimates utilized here for the team fight, but all we see is one death for the Undying.
And the tower going down as well. He's kind of thinking about a little bit here on Young PH to try and go back in. The Doom was used onto him, but he's still got his full mana pool as a result. Although Palos, he just spent the entire time pushing down here. That's going to be a complete creep wave with a siege creep removed. So that's less farm for Yangon Galacticos. I want to point out UK for that one. His positioning was perfect. You know, just being able to pop the borrowed time just in time, get in place to put the Aphotic Shield in onto the Doom, allow him to get his BKB off and retreat. So very, very nicely done there by the Abaddon.
Yeah, we're speaking about him throughout the draft and how he can really answer the Tide Hunter. So beautiful plays from UK. He's going into a Holy Locket as well. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, pretty standard. I feel like considering the start that the Doom and the Juggernaut have had, they're just going to be the ones placing themselves on the front line, like just what we saw. Viper's still a little bit squishy to be fulfilling that role, so I think he just wants to make sure that he can get that burst heal off. You know, the Aphotic Shield, the Miscoil, the actual use of the Holy Locket itself, just to be able to buff them up enough to be able to get away. I think it kind of highlights what I was talking about before, right? You need to get that Static Storm off on top of the Abaddon if you're looking to use the Ravage to be able to start any kind of team fights.
Well, this is a great tombstone on the high ground. They've also dealt with UK. So another BKB charge force from Enryu. They can just TP up straight in the face. So that second charge of the BKB, it's more than likely going to reveal a ward in the vicinity as well with how they started that fight. Can they jump? Yeah, they're actually going to jump the Tide. Telekinesis out of the Nether Toxin, but they still got the break for a long duration, so Palos can just rip him apart thanks to the Omni Slash. Those TP's just a bit too shy.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
They might look to D-ward. They might also just think that it was the Tombstone vision that allowed them to, you know, make that team fight happen. I don't think they would have seen everything happen around that previously. Like, they don't know if the Tombstone went down first. So we'll see. We'll see what they opt to do to try and change that mindset. But yeah, the question still remains of, like, how do you look to take these team fights? For mine, it just... If the positioning is right by the Abaddon, you just can't take a team fight. Like, even with Ravage, you just can't do it. So you need to somehow either pop the borrowed time and then retreat and then look to re-engage, or you need to make sure that UK is on top of whoever the main target is that you're actually looking to go on. Those are the two win conditions that are there for Yangon Galacticos. Might be looking to make a play in about 100 gold on the Spectre, who's close to picking up the Manta. Oh my god.
Please don't reveal it's a real illusion. Okay.
I'm over here.
They do have a ward, actually. If Neon keeps stalking the area, they might see young PH. They're going to see him now, but no, they didn't continue to chase. So we do have, keep in mind, the blink on Enryu along with the blink on Hustler. Simultaneously with Mangdai. Can he get the kill before the TP out? Skill 8 actually pops the ulti there.
All right.
Just a strength multiplier to keep him alive, potentially.
I mean...
Just buy Fairy Fire, bro.
I would have bought a Fairy Fire, yeah. Actually, my fingers are a bit slow, so probably I would have tried and died.
The Boomer Age, I understand. Pressing R is just so much easier.
Look, we saw that Mushi played yesterday and he could still do it. And
That's
he's older
true.
than me, so...
That gives you hope. That gives you hope. You can see someone prevail at the old age like Mushi, and you're like, okay, you know, I might be able to have some solid games here and there.
Yeah, this TI third place finisher. Same level as that.
Oh, without a doubt. What do you mean? Mushi, compared to you, I'd definitely put you just a notch below. Maybe even on the same level. Yangon, look to try and smoke behind the siege and the tower. They'll jump once again, but UK's positioning this time not perfect. A little bit too far away from the initial target with the Ravage. They're pushing further and further away. But Mangdai, though, has a double damage rune for the team fight. They've recognized a lot of ultimates are being committed, but once again, they're looking to jump in. Lon has kind of compromised his own position. He'll attempt the TPR, but instantly Hustler answers that with the telekinesis. They were 2 for 2, but Yangon feel like they're pretty happy with that, considering they got the tier 1 tower as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of like what I was talking about, right? If Abaddon's in position, that doesn't happen. So... Of course, you can't just be holding the Doom's hand at all stages of the game. It was daytime. They had vision because of the tombstone to, enable that to happen. So it was a lucky break that they had about a 2-second window where they could have made that engagement happen. But that's the sort of opportunity that you need to take sometimes. And, well, young PH is going to need to zip all the way back to base to try and regen his mana. But, I don't know about rejoining this fight. I feel like it's going to be Roche dropping before he's able to actually re-engage. Yeah, he's pinging it out. This would be a big one if he's able to TP in time, but not going to happen.
Great recognition from Neon. I know the ultimates are on cooldown, so they can make just an easy maneuver inside the pit. So Palos, when he's got a 2-level advantage over the enemy's position 1. Also being able to catch out Zorain too, so just another notch on the tally here for the side of Dire. And Palos, yeah, just gets the kill.
My finest work.
I'm a little disappointed in Zorain that he's not gold tier on the Disruptor, because I think he's got one of the best lines in the entire game. It's just him screaming, "They're trying to kill me," which you spam it whenever you're getting chased down, and hopefully you can make the other team laugh and put them off their game a little bit.
It really is all about the voice lines, isn't it? It's just... I mean, we saw OG win multiple TIs thanks to the voice lines, literally no other reason, so...
Jerax who? Anna who?
Who are you talking about? I don't know. Who are those plays? It's all Neon
Have you heard
plays at
some
the
of the
moment.
crazy rumors, by the way?
Oh, no, I haven't. Let's hear them.
There's a rumor that says Jerax is going to EG.
Oh, let's go.
Now, I don't know how much...
How that much truth there's in
validity.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Enryu's in trouble. Doom dropped. Simultaneously, they've actually found out how. He's got some assistance coming over. Spectre's pretty goddamn tanky with all the items he's been able to pick up. So 2 split up fights. It's going to cost Neon a potential kill on the Spectre.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bit of poor positioning coming through from a Mangdai there, right? Like I highlighted before. Gonna maybe try and kill Skill A here. He's standing on the front lines, feeling a little bit confident. What level's the Infernal Blade at the moment? Because he can't exactly go... Now he can go for the TP if he wants to.
Even Spectre looking to get involved. Can they actually claim the kill? They can. Simultaneously, okay, Palos is just losing ages somewhere else. Blade Fury still up and available. It's actually going to try and drop the Omni Slash, but a majority of the damage is tanked from the illusions. The rest of Neon looking to try and swing on over, but he doesn't get the Blade Fury before the Vortex. Enryu swings on 4, but it won't matter. They need to try and protect him as much as possible thanks to the help of UK, but Palos looks like still won't get out to safety on Neon. They've compromised their own positioning. Palace just forcing the rest of the team to go way too deep to protect him. As Enryu, that'll cost him his life, and also they've caught out UK before the retreat. So signs of life for Yangon.
Signs of life that really should have never happened. You know, the thing I was talking about before all of those additional team fights happened was that I talked about how the Juggernaut and the Doom, they're the ones that need to be on the front lines because they're inherently tanky. Could you just have a quick look at Viper's item build at the moment? Yeah, I mean, look at what he's got. He's got an ATOS, so what, 8 stats from that, a few stats from the wand, and an Ogre Axe, and I suppose the Pupil's Gift as well. But he's not tanky. You know, he's got 9 armor. He's only got 2,000 health at this point of the game. You could compare that to, you know, a Juggernaut with how much levels he's got, how tanky he is, and his inherent kit for spell immunity.
Poor old Hustler. An easy pick-off. I mean, you were definitely bringing up that young PH needs to have a pretty solid game. KDA-wise, I mean, at least kills, you're shy-ish of a high stage like we saw in the Ember last game, but very impressed with at least how he's been able to, you know, calm down what could have been a rough game against the Viper.
For sure. I feel like... Able to send him all the way back. Never mind, BKB being popped just for a position 5 here. What's Hustler's item situation look like at the moment?
He's got
just a Blink Dagger, really. So I feel like the game plan now for Yangon, kind of like what happened around that mid-tier 1 tower, needs to be the same. They need to catch out a core, doesn't matter who it is, as long as they're away from the Abaddon. And then if they're able to get the silence in onto the Abaddon after that, that's fantastic. You've also got the Orchid now completed as well on the Storm Spirit. So I feel like young PH, he can put a lot of his attention towards Hustler. So I feel like that's still going to be his job. Take Hustler out of the team fight so that any kind of Ravage isn't able to be stolen. But the rest of the team is all just focused around killing the core and making sure UK is disabled.
We'll see how much attention they start to put on the Abaddon. Like, we saw, really it's been one fight where Aber has kind of turned it around, where it was that tier 1 fight at the mid lane. So we'll see.
This is a lot different now. At least you got the BKB on the Viper, right? So I don't want to say you can stand on the front lines, but you're not feeling quite as terrified about it.
Definitely still a lot of the damage from Radiant's going to come through from their spells. So the BKBs and magic immunity with the Blade Fury as well is going to be a huge window here for Neon to maybe get a pick off or 2 and then reset and have that numbers advantage where they feel confident to snowball the remainder of that fight.
Nearly picking up the Holy Locket for the Abaddon as well. Close to it.
I'll make the jump on the Undying for Mengdire. At least being able to start up and the rest of the team can follow one through. Hustler hasn't been able to steal too many abilities so far this game, unfortunately. It's definitely not the greatest Rubik game in that regard, but does Palace go for this? Oh, he's really thinking about it. Except one more second too far, and Palace going to look to penalize you. It's going to be cautious now. They've got the Static Storm drop, Glimpse potential to drag you back. The rest of Dire are too late. Palace? What's going on there? It's just a disruptor. Your life is so much more valuable. Now you've just forced UK to come over for the save your teammates syndrome. So you're given an opportunity for Yangon to come back into this game.
Yeah, it should not be happening. It really, like, that's the sort of game where, you know, you're having a very solid start.
Are they sticking around? Oh, they are.
Yes,
Instant jump in.
I do like the fact that they're protecting their vision, though. You know, they know that there's that high ground vision, though, on the Disruptor. So he always needs to be a little bit more cautious than that. He spotted it out previously with that Sentry Ward and the Kinetic Field. So to be walking up there solo still does feel a little bit odd. They're going to be able to deal with it with the illusions nicely done with the Courier Micro. Who just picked up the Ags there? I didn't quite see that. Tide already had it.
Regis Disruptor? I think
so.
Yeah, I mean, Lun has had his for a little bit now. So yeah, Disruptor.
Right, well, no BKB saves for the 3 cores now.
That's huge.
Out of Static Storm.
I mean, we were speaking about earlier that
Radiant are
I think Yangon, as the game goes on, have to be pretty confident with how they can take team fights. I mean, their ultimates are just that much easier to be able to utilize and bring heroes down, but I mean, it still has to come down to execution.
Well, they're They're all grouped up. Mid lane pushed in a little bit far, so someone's going to need to defend it. Otherwise, this is going to be incredibly obvious that they're going for a play. It's going to be Spectre for now.
Dire are
They're
scanning.
all kind of grouped around the space. I like the fact that they're grouping around on the south side of this.
Lon's going to raid straight into them. Blade Fury instantly pop. UK making sure is in the middle of the fight, but they've lost the Observer Ward advantage now, so they've got to think twice about how they look to take the engagement. It's still very grouped up, trying to find the opening. Lon, has he found it just yet? Ravage drop UK instantly, but they've dropped the Static Storms now with the fresh items. You can't get no items off. BKB not available. Doom's got to look to buy back, but they've lost the Juggernaut. So an instant disengage with the TP out from the Viper, but UKE doesn't have this opportunity, nor does Hustler. Yangon, well and truly back into the game.
It's a long Roche respawn timer. At least they've got that going their way on Neon, but it's a big loss that has been allowed to happen because of those two team fights that really shouldn't have taken place. And so, you know, you get an earlier Aghanim Scepter on your position 4 disruptor than you might be expecting. They're going to look to convert it as well, as it's now looking like a 2k or so net worth lead for Yangon. Still a little bit careful here on Lun.
See what they can do against the Tide. Haven't been forced to drop the Doom just yet. Maybe for How. Great timing with the Manta. Still, to find the real Spectre. The rest of Radiant looking to converge in the area. They've got so much damage in the moment between the two, but Young PH finally zips from afar. Cleans off the Doom. That's a dieback at the moment. But now they can look to turn their attention to claim the Viper's life as well.
Shouldn't have spit into the wind.
Don't think you care all that much, you know, keeping the Doom on the sidelines for that long.
UK?
It's, a big win, yeah. This should be a dead Abaddon, unfortunately.
They're just feeding kills left, right, and center. I mean, all of a sudden, Yangon are the ones with the higher kill. Hustler's gonna jump.
Well, this is
He's got Palace nearby. Let's see who's gonna tank up the Omni Slashes. It's Zorain. As Young PH will get an opportunity to zip himself to safety. What a messy game. Oh my god. Game 1 was crazy. What's going on right now?
Messy is the word I would definitely use for it. You know, a lot of unforced errors is something that I would say is happening right now. You know, Neon, they were in such a commanding position. All they needed to do was not change how they were going about things, but instead, one simple movement by Mamang Daya on his own into the jungle without vision, with only, I believe, a Rubik for backup, and that they were able to pick him off and then just snowball that into what feels like 3 or 4 successful team fights for Yangon Galacticos.
Now you got some huge items as well for Radiant defensive-wise. Lincoln's picked up on the Storm Spirit, Lotus Orb on the Undying as well. So great ways to minimize the effect of the Doom. Even their initial lockdown as well through telekinesis is just that much more difficult.
I think I saw someone with a refresher orb recipe in their backpack. Can you have a look at the items again?
The Doom.
Very interesting.
I mean, he's super farm, top of the network. So even though he's got those 5 deaths, that all you really need is, as long as you have a good laning stage, get Devour maxed out as fast as possible, an early Midas, and your farm just skyrockets. And he bought back as well, and died back.
Now this might just be me being big noob, but
Big noob, yes.
I never understood the reason for buying the recipe instead of one of the components. There's the argument of, oh, we don't want to reveal what we're going for, but if you bought the recipe, they know what you're going for. Yeah, and also you're against this lineup where something like, you know, the Lotus Orb, for example, or the Lincoln Sphere is going to be very effective. So why not just buy a Perseverance instead? It costs around the same price, and it actually does something for you.
Yangon, the Roche attempt. Smoke on smoke. All comes down to the team fight by the area. It's an early BKB from Mamang Daya. Looking to use it early just to prevent the Static Sword, but the jump in once again with the Ravage. You're going to try and target down Palace, who just gets eviscerated. Radiant clean up everyone. 3 will drop, and Ryu the next on the agenda. Still hasn't even used the Doom. As Yangon, too strong throughout the mid stage of this game. They'll make it a wipe.
And they give him the wrong as well as they look to clean up the Roshan. It just feels like their positioning's a little bit off here on Neon, right? Like, they're hitting every single one of those tick boxes that I was talking about before, where, you know, they need to, get the Ravage onto multiple people, and they need to follow it up with a silence there from Zorain, making sure it's clipping onto UK. They do it, they're able to burst it down because there's no BKB now with the Ag Static Storm, and it all comes based on the What?
Oh, they gave the Ag shot to Spectre. I'm sorry. I have to cut you off.
Terrible.
It's horrific. You got a disruptor.
Dire's middle tower
I don't
Yeah.
just give it to anyone, man. What is this shot?
Give it to the Tidehunter so you can push towers faster. Like imagine if he had the Ag Shard right now, he could have anchor smashed and you wouldn't have even needed to use your glyph there because the tower would have done basically no damage to all of your creeps.
High ground
You're
under
personally
siege.
offended by this.
Yeah, I'm like, hang on a second. I mean, we both love the disruptor shot as well. Not that it's you got the best cause to play around with it. I mean,
Honestly,
it's,
everyone except the Undying would have been a better choice than the Spectre.
Radiant, man, what a way to come back into this game. 9,000 net worth lead. Is that
The
full
graph tells the
set?
story.
Yeah, that it does.
Like, I'm pretty sure that 22, 23 minute mark is when Mang Dai walking into.
Yeah, even Palace as well when he walked into that high ground down
That happened
bottom.
after, right? Like, that happened after the fact.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Yeah. I was talking about the triangle where he was going a little bit too deep. And
Oh,
then
yes,
you've got
yes,
the base dive as well on top of that.
Yeah, honestly, just a couple of mistakes from Dire. Like you said, positioning. I mean, Abaddon's was great at the start, then the team fights, it's too difficult now when they have an influx of items, and Palace has been caught out one too many times. I mean, it's just
I'd say too many times.
too many times. And the Ages down bottom. And now he's at a stage where he's behind the behind the Spectre, and this is a hero that does not farm nearly as fast as someone like the Jug. So, is there a window for Dire back into this game?
It doesn't really feel like they've been the one to start any of these team fights. You know, they've gone for a couple of smokes, they haven't paid off, they've been underneath some Yangon Galacticos visions. So I think maybe the play is, even though it's not ideal, you got to try and get it onto those backlines and somehow doom the Tide, because that's how they're wanting to start every single one of these team fights.
Yeah, I think it's going to be super important with how it comes down to vision. Hustler needs... So Enryu needs to have the angle in to find that key target. I want to see how Hustler plays these fights as well. We've seen him literally single-handedly carry a fight yesterday. So they're going to jump in on Viper. UK this time will keep him alive. Mang Dai gets an opportunity to BKB, but he's actually just going to TP out, so they want to completely avoid the team fight. Enryu jumps in, so they'll get rid of the Ravage as well, but where's the extra follow-up? The rest of the cores aren't there. Jug tries to pop the Omnislash now, but the last second still... Tide's getting chased further and further away, but the Basher's just controlling Enryu. Now, finally, the Omnislash just casted on top of all the illusions. So Palace's damage is completely lacking. Silenced up, brought down. Honestly, they might just call it now. They can't do anything in these team fights. That was without the Ravage.
It was much better positioning that time around, but yeah, it's just gotten to the point where you've got this Spectre lineup, you've got a late-game Storm Spirit, and yeah, Tidehunter just tanky as hell. So I think Yangon have done it.
I think they have indeed. I mean, they 2-0'd Polaris yesterday, and then the day before, and then now tying the series versus Neon. It's gonna, at least with a new roster, put them down as 3-1. And this is, I mean, I've been very impressed with the games we've seen from Yangon, though. Your last game was a little bit rough, but you know, the way they were able to, the way they were able to come back in this game and reset their composure is, very convincing.
Still not willing to call it just yet. You've got UK walking in here. Doom has the buyback. Not sure if it's going to result in all that much, though. Well, you may as well make the attempt.
As soon as they do, Ravage to answer. I'm sure they'll call the GGs pretty shortly afterwards as well.
UK just trying to drag him as far away as possible. Not going to be the case, though. They're going to continue the push on forward. He can buy back. He'll throw his life into the fray one more time, but they know he doesn't have borrowed time this time around, so that's going to be GG.
Wow, man, what a performance from Yangon to be able to pull themselves back into it and tie our first series of the day.
Definitely wasn't the result I was expecting in this game number 2, based on how things went in game number 1. And like I said, there were a bunch of different boxes that they needed to tick in those first few team fights. Didn't work for the first 20 or so minutes, but after that, it just felt like Neon fell apart. There's could you say, like, just to be super optimistic, it was the loss that they needed to have? Maybe they have three really solid games to be able to start out their new roster. And this one, they were really feeling themselves. They had a strong game. I think they were about 7K ahead at the time, at the 20 or so minute mark. And now you've approached this stage where, you probably could have been a little bit more cautious with all of it.
Yeah, I feel like the loss is going to give them. It's going to give them a lot to think about. I mean, it's a game where they probably felt like they shouldn't have lost as well. They had probably about a 7,000 net worth lead, ages advantage. Like you said, Palace getting caught out probably too many times. And that's a big issue with how they just gave Yangon some key items. I mean, the Aghanims on Zorain was, clutch in a couple of these fights where they could just continue the momentum. And it felt like after each fight, they just continued to grow item after item after item. And you also highlighted a big reason why Yangon could potentially win this game is off the back of young PH. I mean, he went 15, 1, and 19. Played an incredible series, did the position 2 for Yangon. So huge props to him.
Especially after that DC at the start as well. We were thinking, oh no, not again. Come on, Myanmar. You gotta have that solid internet. And they did. At the end of the day, they were able to pull it out. It's a 1-1. And we move on to our next series of the night. What do we got coming up, Lockie?
Next up, we got Execration versus Mega. So the 8th place versus the 9th place. But we'll see if this new kind of roster of Execration can start to build some momentum. And Mega as well, we saw yesterday play with a couple of stand-ins. So again, still a series that's pretty important. I mean, we're on 7th day of the groups at the moment, and we only have 4 more after today. So every series is incredibly reliant on for these teams to make sure they're able to at least make it to the lower bracket, because one team is eliminated after the groups. We'll find out how the next series is going to fare after this short break.